Hey everyone, Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett. On today's episode of the Mayor's Table, we have a great show talking about the history of San Juan County with Lee Harper with the San Juan County Historical Society. You know, for only $20, you can join the San Juan Historical Society and contribute to the story of this community as they compile the data, archive it, and put it out into these fantastic publications that talks about where we've been so we can plan a little bit better of where we're going. So stay tuned. It's a great show. I hope you got your coffee. Enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to the Mayor's Table. We appreciate you tuning in today. It's summertime 2024, July 1st. It's hot outside. I thought it'd be a great time to bring on a new guest to our show. And Lee Harper with the San Juan Historical Society has agreed to join us today to talk about what the Historical Society does, kind of the history behind it, different fun things that are happening within your organization. So Laura, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation. We were really excited to get this invitation from your desk, for sure. The San Juan County Historical Society began in 1989. So that's quite a few years ago.
Yeah, no, that is when you think about 1989.
1989.
I wonder what the number one movie in America was in 1989.
That's too long ago for me to even think about. But you know what they did think about back in 1989 that I think is outstanding is they were thinking about technology. So in the mission of San Juan County Historical Society is that we create a database, a computerized database for research. And so who in 1989 when computers were starting?
Sure.
You know, I didn't have
a computer back then.
We didn't have email.
I think my science class did.
It's incredible. It's incredible that this is about 8 individuals, and what they had in mind was a database be put together for research. And here we
so
are
they
in
began
2024.
In 1989, just kind of compiling information that they digitized, and imagine they kept them on floppy disks or something to that effect. How did they use technology back then to do it?
Well, that's very an interesting question that you're asking me because actually they didn't. They had the conception, to do this, and that the idea was there, but they didn't have the wherewithal and the infrastructure for it. So we inherited about 10 years ago. We inherited a lot of old archives, maps, and old library books and things like that that are archival, but they're not in a database.
Okay.
And so that's what the Historical Society is now doing. We're taking their very mission and we're moving it forward into the 21st century and into 2024 so that we do create that database.
All right.
And the significance of that, as we had to understand, is a library is for library books and for lending. And then you have museums that are for artifacts and that. But really the San Juan County Historical Society is all about our county and then the archival data for that county. So
kind of the preservation of our story.
The preservation of our story. And I think that really bodes well with the purpose of history.
Do you know any of the names of those original 8 people?
Tim Gordon is the first one that comes to mind,
Okay.
and I do have them right. They were Chano Hackus, Barbara Primley Myers, Bill Holmberg, Melba Arnold, Marilyn Shaw, Mary McKee, and Tim Gordon.
Well, thank you to them and their families for having that kind of foresight, because it's our story here in Farmington is unique, obviously, in many ways. Just this past week, somebody said, "Why are we called Farmington?" And I'm like, man, you need to get caught up on the history here and understand what this community was until 1950, 1960. It was all farms.
Correct.
So a lot of stories and that whole transition away from farming.
And that's very intriguing to me because Tim Gordon is the one that created our logo. And that falls into what you're talking about right now, Mayor. On one side of the logo, it's actually a kiva, and the kiva has on its left side, it has that farming ideas, the things that were, conducive for living back in the day. Of
Sure.
course, the water.
Yeah, having these river basins here, certainly push that forward.
The livestock, the coal, all the other assets that we have for the economic advantages that we have in this San Juan Basin. But then on the other side of the kiva are rooms for our cultural past, which is the ancient Puebloans, the indigenous tribes that were here.
Sure.
And then, of course, when the horses and the conquistadors came, and then the brand. And so that farming and cattle community plays right into the history of our county.
We've had Tom Taylor on the show, and we've kind of talked about the history of this area. His family, of course, has been here for, I guess, a century probably now.
Yes.
Maybe longer than a
1880s,
century, yeah.
For sure.
And talked about those transitions and all the components built into it. And it is a lovely story. Every area has its ups and downs, but when you consider where we've been, and I've mentioned this to Tom, there's a website called newsarchives.com. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, I've heard of that.
So you can go on and look at all the old Times hustlers and the Daily Times. I mean, everything back until, I think it's like early 1900s. And to find articles and advertisements for San Juan County that are so similar to the things that we're trying to sell San Juan County on now is really unique. It's really fun.
It's embedded. It's
Yes.
embedded in our history.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that's why I get so excited when I talk about Tim Gordon's logo and all of that economic advantages this basin has for us and for then and into the future.
So now, talk about what the board is doing now. How many people are on the board? Tell me a little bit more. I'm kind of coming from a place of ignorance, really. I know you all are involved in events like Freedom Days that's coming up. You guys are involved in that and some other, but I want to learn more about the actual organization itself.
We are we're a 250 strong membership.
Okay.
And so you have a membership that comes to our presentations, and we get maybe an average of 75 that always come to our presentations, our general meetings at the Civic Center or wherever we hold them. And we're a board of 8 at this time, and we're trying to build for the future. So
Okay.
we have a top-tier board. We're trying to build a second tier that brings in a younger population to work with some of us that have been on the board for all these years, so that our knowledge can be passed down to them, so that the society can continue. And then on the third tier then is our general membership. But recently, we presented Elisa Landry and her book, Thomas H. Begay and the Code Talkers.
Okay.
And so that was outstanding to bring in all of our indigenous cultural values and stories. And so the Code Talkers was outstanding. We're looking forward to an event in August that is going to be drive-ins in New Mexico.
Oh, wow.
So you remember we had
Of course.
the Valley Drive-In and the Apache Twin.
I worked at the Apache Twin when I was in high school.
Dandy. Do you have any pictures from those days?
I sure
to
wish
share
I
with
did.
us?
I carved my name up on the boards, though, like every other employee had done. And now, of course, it's Walmart. So
Well, those are inscriptions, and those are inscriptions that are a memory of our past.
there were a
Even
lot
if
of
you
very familiar names
should
on that
have.
rafter, by the way. Many people in this community who've worked in that facility.
That goes right into the Mesa Verde. So we did a presentation at the end of last year, and it was called Messages in a Viga, but it was inscriptions that settlers had come through this basin and signed their names in the beams
Sure.
of the Mesa Verde ruins. And so that is combined now in a history with the ancient Puebloans.
That's cool.
That's pretty outstanding.
Wonderful. So August, say that again. So in August,
So in August, we're doing the drive-ins in New
Drive-ins in
Mexico.
New Mexico, okay.
And then October 16th, we have Carrizo. And Carrizo is going to be so unique. There is a man by the name of Victor A. Abeda. and his family homesteaded the Carrizo Canyon back in the early 1920s, and his history goes back clear to 1890. And so
where is the Carrizo Canyon
The
at?
Carrizo Canyon is 27 miles down from the Caracas Mesa, approximately. It starts in the Carrizo Canyon just south of Highway 64.
Okay.
And so it'll border along the Hickory Apache
Gotcha.
Nation, and then if you start moving east, then you go into the Largo Canyon,
Yep.
where I just spent my weekend, Memorial Weekend, researching history.
Oh, wow.
So, just past, we had a wonderful event in Aztec, and we celebrated 60 years of history presenting Dr. Jimmy Miller, and the village band was there, and so it was a real fun and exciting event for San Juan County.
It's 60 years.
60 years we celebrated.
Wonderful. So you made an interesting comment right there about being in Largo Canyon and doing research. As a board for San Juan Historical Society, are all of you kind of taking that up to where you are also adding to the historical record on your own?
Well, I think certainly that's the truth. When we have our Patty Tharp, who's a former San Juan County Historical Society president, and she wrote those two fabulous books, Lost Communities of Navajo Dam. And so those books capture all of those communities, the Martinez family, the Pinos, the Rosso, the Arbolese communities. And she's going to be doing a presentation, by the way, on all of that with a panel of actual families that were displaced when the reservoir was filled and dammed up.
Oh, wow.
And so like you say, yes, we research and create our own histories through our publications. And so my love to go out to the Largo Canyon was to look and explore at those petroglyphs and see that Spanish history and the ancient Puebloan history and then the Navajo history all inscribed in one area for you. And then as I was leaving the canyon through Largo, there all of a sudden were the Mustangs, that Mustang camp. And so, of course, they have a living museum history. So it's just...
Well, that's how you and I've kind of met, was in regards to the Mustangs of the Caracas Mesa, which is a film that you've put together and showed at the Tota Theater, and looking obviously to get a broader kind of release for that film. And you've got a lovely idea for tourism built around the wild horse populations that we have here. And certainly, if you go out to the Bistai and the Denazin side, there's horses all out there. They'll hang around the parking lot. I've tried to give one an apple, and they're like, "What is this?"
No,
they don't know what an apple is.
You don't find that in the desert often.
But there again, just the history of the Mustangs here. I mean, there's just a great story wrapped around that, how the horses were brought in, and the way that they have thrived in many ways out here in the high desert.
It's outstanding. It's so outstanding to even think of them and their DNA and the Iberian bloodlines. But the story they have to tell of our settlers, the cavalry, and the Spanish communities and the homesteaders that needed them, back in the early 19th century. And their Mustanging stories are history in themselves. So
sure.
It's outstanding.
Very awesome. Any other events here that are coming up?
I think that wraps it up for us for this year. And then next year is the grand opening. We've been interviewing, and during those COVID years, 2020. Right before that hit us, I was fortunate to just finish off 17 interviews of individuals who are now gone, but they're individuals that were part of the El Paso natural gas community, as you alluded to. So it's going to tell a history of 1950s up to, approximately 1970, early 70s. But we've named it from harvesting apples to harvesting gas. And among those interviews were Betty Aarons, so, a lot of outstanding people.
What an incredible transition for a community to go through.
I know.
And Tom sat here with us and talked about walking from his house just over here, east of downtown, and going all the way up to what is Cottonwood Heights now on 30th Street, and it just being orchards all the way from his house all the way up to that hill. and in just a decade, 2 decades, we see so much of that just transition into housing and urban development.
Sunset Heights.
Yeah, right.
Wasn't there.
Wasn't there.
It's incredible.
Yeah, wonderful. You have an incredible Facebook page, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned this because Mike Maddox does a lot. Well, he manages your Facebook page, right?
He does. He does an outstanding job. The Facebook page we need to give credit to is Kelly West.
Okay.
And she began the Facebook page, and those were in the days when it just first started. And then Mike Maddox took it over. And he has, I think, the secret of his brilliance and his success as he tells the stories. And he keeps that page simple so that when you wake up in the morning, when he's got his story, there you have a wonderful history and pictures of our past. And then he does include, the upcoming events of the San Juan County Historical Society, but he keeps it really crisp and pristine, and I think that's one of his successes. And what's really outstanding about this all, of course, San Juan County Historical Society is a playground for him.
Sure.
But he has built that Facebook to 15,000 followers.
That is amazing.
Amazing.
Well, I share anytime I see one on there, I share it, and I've commented on a few of them because he does such a great job. Just a very astute, documentarian of the stories that he's telling, and they're just really neat and they're entertaining and obviously very educational. Was Mike a writer here in the Daily Times? Like, do you know Mike's background?
I know Mike as, a longtime resident of Farmington. I know his family, and he's just an outstanding, talented man. And he's a writer, and he has published his own history book. So he's just a talent, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, very fortunate to have him here in our community, and fortunate that the society has taken up the role of preserving it. Is there a physical location where people could come and actually view the things that you all have collected? Is it kind of spread in different spots here in San Juan County, or is it how does that work if somebody's interested in getting into it?
I'm glad you asked that question. We are located in a historical building that used to be the fire station of Aztec. And so it's right next door to the Aztec Museum. And the San Juan County Historical Society has always been in the county seat of San Juan County, so that has to be Aztec.
Sure.
And so when you go into our small building, you'll see all the newspapers and the maps and all this archival tax records and this crisp, old archival stuff that you would only see in movies, and then computerized. But it's a small space, and so it's not conducive to touring. But what we hope to do is have a satellite place for research. But again, we have to remember that the society is there to compile research and not to replace what a library does for our community.
Right.
Or for what a museum might do.
I have been in that facility last year for a Focus on Farmington coffee event, actually. I remember now.
Yes, and you were there for the tour.
During the balloon rally. Actually, balloon rally was going on, so that was in fall of last year.
Well, since then, Connie Nordstrom has, archived our library. We've decorated a bit so that it looks really nice, and we've reorganized our inventory and done an inventory so that we know what we have. And so that's been really great. And our new collections have come in, and we just recently have brought in the Mary Lou Wayborn collection, which is just outstanding. And so we're going through that information and providing, some of the information that really belongs at the county fair records. There were some law books that we donated to the state bar. Mark Kernuck took those. So we're just keeping it so that we stay within the mission of that group in 1989 that began and focus on getting things digitized.
So on that digitization note,
yes.
I believe there's a new website that you all are putting together. Is that a part of this effort to compile it, put it out there so it would be easily searchable? Is that kind of the plan?
Yes, sir. We're so excited about this because it's been a long time coming. But anyway, it's going to be 5 pages to start out with. It's a big secret right now what our hero page is.
Okay.
And so we can't wait for San Juan County, the San Juan County to open up and see our first Facebook page, but our hero page will tell who we are. And we've made a decision on what the first hero picture is going to be, and it might be not a still picture, but it's something moving.
Oh, wow.
So that might give you an idea of what it might be. And then we have our story will be told also in that, and our story is going to be told within that hero picture. It will be our logo. And so our plan is to use the logo so that if you push on maybe the brand, then you'll go into the early settlers and homesteaders. So the logo will tell the story of San Juan County Historical Society, and then we'll have the basic 5 pages. And we want to make sure that when we launch it, that we don't launch something that's incomplete.
Sure.
And so once we get the rest of our digitation, going, I'm having our time with that word too.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Then we'll have a place for people to go and do research. So really, when you think about this new world that we're living in, that space is sometimes in a computer.
Sure. It's in the cloud.
It's in a cloud.
It's in a cloud. For anybody interested in getting involved with the Historical Society, whether it's, obviously events is one way, but those events need volunteers. The society would love to have volunteers, board members. You mentioned this initiative to attract kind of a younger group coming in. What do you recommend that they do?
I recommend that in order to get involved with the San Juan County Historical Society, it's number one, join us. Join us for $20, and for $20 that gets you a book. Here are 3 of my favorites, and I have this Echoes of the Past that have all our early settlers. I love this book about the Red Apple Flyer.
The railroad.
The railroad. And so you get a book a year, a publication, you get our newsletters, and then you're invited to all our events and our presentations that are also very interesting. But to get to your question, how can you get involved and how can you help? We need that second tier of individuals, those young kids that might know technology, those avid, for whatever age you are. If you're a writer, we need individuals that want to just, come in and help us sell our books at our events.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things you can do to help us keep San Juan County Historical Society thriving into the future.
Well, it's a great mission. It is a great mission, and it's something that we should be deeply invested in as individuals who live here and contribute here and want to see it continue to thrive.
Absolutely. And we were having our board meeting yesterday. And all of a sudden we looked at our agenda, and it was so exciting because on the agenda included Aztec, Bloomfield, an event in Farmington. So we have, some ideas in Kirtland. We're waiting for them to give us an idea about what they want for the next dedication. And so the initiatives are fun because it's countywide. And so just to tell you about our next initiatives, the Society is focused on making connections, and because we represent the whole county. So we're planning on our agenda the Apple and Chili Fest coming up. Bloomfields has a dedication for salmon and family and all the other things. So it's just so crucial that everybody become involved so that we can represent the county.
Well, one of the questions that was on our list of things to talk about was why history is important. It was one of the first ones on there, but we kind of jumped over it. But from your standpoint, having been involved with this organization now, how long have you been? Oh,
goodness. Where does the time go, Mayor?
I don't know.
I don't know. Where does the time go? We were all just talking about that, and we've all been, I've been on there for nearly 10 years.
Wow.
So, and I don't know where the time has gone.
So in the time that you've been there and you've been assisting and compiling and researching and presenting, and what is your perspective now on why our history is so important to us?
Well, I love this quote, and it comes from a Jewish prayer book. And it says, we are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. And so that always kind of brings to me the belief that the provenance of our history answers questions for us. The animals and the humans are all inquisitive. If even the elk, everything's inquisitive, and people are inquisitive. And that question always helps us to thrive. And I think the inspiration on understanding the beauty of history and what it really means came to me through inspiration from Angela Watkins. And she's a librarian in Aztec. And so from her inspiration, I think that our footprints are a part of the sandstone, the rim rock, the pine, the sage, everything that we have here that's of value, our cottonwoods, our rivers, the architecture, and our memories. And when our stories are told firsthand, like we do with the San Juan County Historical Society, then those stories can be told in a unifying way. And so that's why I think history is so important.
That's beautiful. That's very well stated.
Thank you.
I do like that. Obviously, the fact that it answers a lot of questions. So many of us go through things in our life and we think these may be unique components, and the reality is they're probably not unique. Other people have gone through these same struggles, these same challenges, and they've found ways to overcome them. And those are inspirational stories that I think we learn from and we continue to grow from. Certainly, I'm a big history guy. I love history.
Yes.
My son is a big history guy. He loves his history classes. Mrs. Weems was my favorite teacher in all of my
You are dating
years.
yourself,
Yes,
Mayor.
she was such an amazing,
outstanding woman.
yeah, just incredibly
Humanities.
love her very much. And I find a lot of value in the stories and in learning from those things and juxtaposing where we're at today as a society versus where we have been. And everything works in these cycles. It's funny, like trends. Pop culture is a great history to go back and look at pop culture because everything is 80s now.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, everybody's regurgitating all these things that we were doing in the 80s.
Isn't that so true?
And it's just interesting the way that it works that way.
I love that.
So I enjoy that. Thank you for presenting those books. And may I see? I just want to see one of them here.
Now, these are three that tell a little bit of history about my family, and my great grandfather Elmer Franklin Taylor, came through and rode his horse.
Are you a part of the Taylor family?
I am. I'm on the west side of the Taylor family.
Oh my goodness.
My grandfather was Elmer Alfonso Taylor, and so his family was the first Taylor family, and then after my great-grandmother was killed in a buggy accident, my great-grandfather, Elmer Franklin Taylor, married a Bond, and so that's where you get the Tom Taylor family.
Elmer F. Taylor came from Moab, Utah, entered the San Juan Basin in June of 1888 at the age of 17.
And do you know who gave him direction to this area?
Who?
They call him Old Man Archie, and it's none other than what Arches was named for.
Really?
Really. And he came down on a horse by himself, and he had the fortitude and the foresight to see the Animas Valley, the Animas River, La Plata project. He dug the Jackson Lake. So pretty incredible, and built many buildings here in Farmington.
The Taylor family has been involved in this for so long, and just the stories that are out there and their travels to Washington, D.C. and advocacy for development here. And just a great story of people who created, helped influence all of our stories here.
A funny story about me and why I get confused when I say my great grandfather's name is my grandfather was Elmer Alfonso Taylor, and so there's a park over by behind the Mormon church, and they
Taylor
had
Park.
it E.F. Taylor, and I always thought that they spelled my grandpa's name wrong. I didn't conceive of people that old when I was 6, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So I always kind of torture his name.
Right.
But,
Well, and the train Sure wish we had that train today.
And there was a push at one time in the late 70s or 80s where a group of well-meaning citizens tried to salvage some of that. I think Bob Browning went to Chicago all by himself to get investors to resurrect the railroad, but it just wasn't to be. But anyway, I love the initiatives that are going on right now for that corridor.
Well, that's kind of where I'm, coming to the end of this conversation with you, is the fact that we're contributing to that history right now.
Yes. Excited about that.
And when we encourage people to volunteer and to become a part of these civic organizations like the San Juan Historical Society, a part of that is because it's so important to keep these organizations and the events and the memories that they create by their volunteerism. It impacts all of our quality of lives. And you were mentioning something earlier, and it made me think about the opportunity to provide a history of off-roading here in Farmington and San Juan County, because there's a huge history there. When I first moved here in the early 90s, this area set itself apart from my upbringing in Denver because of the off-roading opportunity and how, every high school kid who had a four-wheel drive was out there in the glade trying to, climb rocks they shouldn't be climbing.
Sure.
It's just insane. But that's added to what I believe this community is and how I present it to other people and how my kids perceive it through my eyes. And those things carry forward. But without organizations like yours, we just had Riverfest, without a River Reach organization that's promoting the river and creating these events and opportunities for community to come together, we're missing out. We'd be missing out on so much.
Absolutely.
So bringing those folks together and giving them an opportunity to serve in this, and it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for anybody who's got time to work with the Historical Society.
And to add to what you just said, it was just like so inspiring when you said that, is that, when anyone steps foot in San Juan County, they become part of that history, even if you're a tourist.
Right.
And so then that begins the contribution of becoming part of San Juan County and part of the sandstone and making history as soon as you arrive.
Yeah.
Just like folks did in 1880. So,
Laura, thanks for joining us.
I have a gift for you.
You have a gift for me.
I do. I have a gift for you, and this is from the San Juan County Historical Society.
Oh, wow.
And they chose, together, as a board, we chose the books that we wanted to present to you. And so your first two books, we're going to start out with The Lost Communities of Navajo Dam. And so that is for you, volumes 1 and 2. And the significance of that is that, it really brings to light the communities that were so important and thriving back in those days, but also, when the dam was built, became new histories.
Sure.
And those builders were, became part of the landscape, so to speak, and part of our history here in San Juan County.
In the history of the hydro dam that's there, and it's the partnership that was created between the city of Farmington and the Navajo Nation to get that project going is an incredible story.
Incredible.
Yeah, and Tom Taylor has a great. Obviously, he was a part of that whole thing. So it's,
of course,
yeah, of course.
Yes, he's such a terrific man, and I love his personality. So anyway, you can't have fun without reading about the crimes of the county. So there's some lynchings in there for you.
There's the San Juan County Crime Facebook page, which I'm not a part of, but I get to hear plenty about it. So this is kind of a historical overlay of crimes committed. That's fantastic. The Green Lawn Cemetery, whenever is that? Oh my gosh.
That's the next one for you.
So is it Rotary that puts on?
Yeah, well, it's the Kiwanis del Sol, and they are so amazing.
And the actors, just these local community members who portray these historical figures, and it makes me think, because a lot of those talk about the different crimes that were committed, and that's awesome.
Gunfights.
Green Lawn. That's a great cemetery.
And to round it off, of course, the book, because the present, but the book, I Remember Farmington Before the Boom.
That's a great picture of Main Street.
Yes. So those are for you.
The old Ford dealership.
And
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you for doing that. And I look forward to getting into them. Do I need to start in that order? Should I read from the Lost Communities of Navajo
what's unique
Dam?
about our publications is that you can pick them up at any time and go to any page, and it's interesting. So, I pick. You see how used my books are.
Sure.
So you won't just look at them once.
So I have 2 books sitting on my coffee table all the time, and it's the 2 volumes of the San Juan County picture books that the Daily Times put together.
Yes, Mary Lou Wayborn.
Which, by the way, are back on sale at the Farmington Museum, if anybody's interested in that, because for a long time you could not get a copy of those.
Yeah.
But to go through and just see the pictures and the families and the names, and you relate those to people that you know now, and I'm like, I didn't know that they'd been here this long, and it's just great to see that, or last names that are spelled differently then versus now, but it's the same family because they changed the spelling of the name.
And sometimes we pronounce names differently, so it's really incredible. I mean, everything about history is fun, and to look at even the adobe or the bricks that were used to build our structures, that thinking that they made those bricks themselves. And the last present, though, we want to give you a complimentary gift, and
thank you.
So that you are a honorary member
Well,
of the
I
San
need
Juan
to sign
County
up.
Historical Society.
I actually thought last year I pulled it and I was going to write a check and do it.
You're
Is there an online option to sign up, by the way?
That's going to come up with our new website, and everybody needs to sign on for it so they can see what our hero picture is going to be.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for these gifts. For people who are interested in purchasing these or reading them, how do they get a hold of them?
Oh, thank you for asking that. So, at our general meetings, of course, you can purchase our books. They're always on sale at our general meetings. And then, of course, if you're a member, you pick up your annual book, your publication. But anytime you can contact the San Juan County Historical Society, and we'll mail you a book.
Oh, wow.
And purchase. So, you can contact us. If I'll take your gift back. This one. You're complimentary.
Got it.
You're a complimentary member.
Complimentary member.
You are. But we have on this pamphlet, we have our email is San Juan County Historical Society, New Mexico at CenturyLink.com.
CenturyLink.
Yes. It's kind of old. Historical.
That's historical.
That's a good note to
That's a historical
That's
name.
really historical.
Yes. I think about I'm going off on a limb here, but around town are all the telecommunication boxes, the green, skinny metal boxes that you see on streets and on corners, and they're all obsolete now.
Yes.
And they're all getting ran over. They're all getting destroyed. But that's a part of our history, when we were all connected in this way through those wires, and we don't need those wires anymore. That's just wild to think about.
Those mailboxes are a representation of CenturyLink.
Yes, forever. I wish they'd come and take them away.
Yes. Well, on behalf of the San Juan County Historical Society, thank you for this invitation.
Yes, we'll have you on again. I think this would be good to update after the website's out and some other things are going on, to bring you back. And because it is, your mission is an important mission for our community. And thank you all for taking up the reins and making it happen. So, Lord Lee Harper, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for joining us. We hope you found something interesting in our historical society. This is such a great gift. Thank you again. But lots of great information out there. I would go to the Facebook page first. Again, San Juan County Historical Society. Just look at all of the great content that Mr. Maddox has put out there and made available, the stories, the pictures. Learn about your community. Learn about where we are from. Make it a talking point with your kids. These are great ways to start conversations, by the way, to talk about, hey, you know what that building used to be?
Wonderful publications. And don't forget, El Paso Natural Gas will be featured in February 2025 from our harvesting apples to gas.
Wonderful.
So.
I literally, you said, you open up one page and you can find something interesting. I open up and I see the word nanoscad. And nanoscad was on the Farmington High School yearbooks. I had no idea even what that word means. But it's in all the yearbooks. So anyways, again, you open it up and there it is. So hey, history's great. Let's learn it. Let's talk about it. Let's create it. We appreciate you tuning in here today, and we'll see you next time on the Mayor's Table.